right, we're live. Hey, everybody, Dave Calafiore along with Drew Griffin. It's that time of the week again, Drew. We're back here for another Build-A-Bot session. How you doing, man?
I'm excited. Thursdays, I look forward to them. I look forward to these Build-A-Bot sessions, and today we've got a good one. So we're going to get right into it, be very respectful of everyone's time. Today, we are talking about how to build out a podcast companion, GPT, to assist with your AI assistants and chatbots, whatever you'd like to call them. We're okay with that as well. We won't judge. We're excited, right? So today we've got a nice little session for you. Obviously, part one. Welcome to this Build-A-Bot session and who this is for. For if you're messing around or you are professionally looking to create custom AI chatbots and custom AI assistants. If you're currently doing that, this is for you. If you're interested in it and don't understand all this technology and all this kind of stuff, we're going to show you some pretty cool stuff today of how you can start to use and leverage this technology to create some of that cool stuff, right? You don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to be a programmer. This is copy and paste easy stuff, but just despite it being easy, you have the opportunity to create some very compelling things, not only to help yourself, but others that you might want to serve, maybe podcasters or maybe content creators, maybe local businesses, anybody that leverages podcasts. This is a pretty cool session for you to check out. So why a podcast companion, GPT? We'll talk about that briefly and how you can solve a big problem for podcasters using this emerging technology. Certainly, we're going to jump right into it and build out a podcast GPT companion. And then how to market this, right? Not only, maybe you don't need to market it. Maybe you just want to use it personally for yourself. So with that said, I did kind of already preview what this Build-A-Bot session is for. If you want to learn more about this stuff, you are in the right place. David and I are going to cover a bunch of that stuff. You get to ask your questions. We'll be glad to answer them as they come in through chat. Just let us know where you're watching this. Maybe you're in a Facebook group, maybe a Facebook page, maybe it's an event, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's LinkedIn. Let us know where you are so we can acknowledge and obviously respond to your comments. So again, part one, who this is for. It's for you guys. If you're here live checking this out, awesome. If you know of anyone that could benefit from using a custom AI chatbot, custom AI assistant, if you know podcasters or if you want to know a podcaster, this is a great way. Like you can create this, maybe even copy our template that we'll make available at some point that you can just, tweak for yourself and go out there and show somebody that is a podcast or even somebody that's thinking about doing a podcast. So, David, let's address this question rather quickly. So why a podcast companion GPT? What would this thing actually do?
Yeah, so essentially what this does, and we're going to show you how to set this up in a really pretty simplistic way, but think about a podcast that's been around for a little while, maybe several years, and they're consistently publishing, their podcast. Well, the content adds up, right? From issue or from episode to episode, there's lots of content, lots of topics, right? And what this essentially does is what we're able to do is attach an RSS feed to AskSpot, right? So an RSS feed, do you want to explain what an RSS feed is in terms of podcast, Drew?
Yeah, so think of it as a newspaper. Like if you're like as old as I am, right? Despite what your eyes may be telling you, I really am not a millennial and a younger person. Back in the day, they actually used to deliver newspapers to our front door, right? Crazy. It's a crazy concept, kids, right? So like every morning you would open the door and there, behold, was a newspaper. It was like a delivery system. So RSS stands for Real Simple Syndication. And the cool thing about these platforms is like when you have a podcast and you publish it to say Apple or to Spotify or to like all the different channels that all the kids are playing with these days, it's delivery, right? It's published and it just like it creates its own address, right? And like a blog or some type of new syndication, like it's delivered to whoever subscribes to it. Like if you are a homeowner, or you had an apartment, you had a newspaper being delivered to you each and every single day, it would show up on your front doorstep. Well, the cool thing about RSS is that this podcast episode would be delivered right into your player of choice. So you don't have to go search for it. You don't have to go out to somebody else's website. You don't even have to open up your front door, right? It just gets delivered directly to you. And that's pretty cool, right? It provides a lot of ease of use and discovery, and actually promotes consumption. It's there. Hey, I haven't caught up on my last 5 episodes. So you can then binge listen, binge
Yeah.
watch, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So the cool part is that we can take one of these RSS feeds that has all the information and continually gets updated by the podcast producer and connect it to a bot in AskSpot or a custom GPT. So if we also take the next step and turn on auto refresh inside of AskSpot, we can automatically update the content that AskSpot has from that RSS feed, right? So it's kind of like it's happening automatically in the background. So once you set this thing up, it always has the newest information for the podcast. So pretty powerful. And yeah, why don't Drew, you still there, Drew?
Yep,
Oh,
I'm
there he
still
is.
here.
Back. Really great way. So essentially what this does is makes all of the content and all the information from that podcast or whatever's accessible within that RSS feed totally searchable instantly, right? So if you're looking for a specific topic that was talked about, if that topic is described within the info section of the podcast episode in the RSS feed, the GPT will know that and can kind of point you in the right direction of that particular podcast episode. Or maybe there's a specific guest interview you were looking for, on a podcast. Well, you could search it instantly through like thousands of episodes. It's pretty wild.
It is wild. And, that kind of moves us into the big problem for podcasters, right? I think as a podcaster and a lot of podcasters, probably the number one thing that we want as podcasters is more listens, more downloads, more discovery of the cool stuff that we are doing, right? We're creating some cool stuff. We're taking the time, the energy to sit down and record one of these podcasts and, edit them and make sure that we've got show notes and make sure that we've got the artwork just right and all that other kind of stuff. All this to say is we're trying to syndicate and get our messages out there. So the big problem, I think the big problem that something like this actually solves is discovery, right? People can share a custom AI chatbot, and when you make these chatbots a little bit more creative, and you can kind of have this companion working alongside you. There's lots of cool stuff that you could do. Plausibly, you could put ads in there, right? You can post images in there. You can post videos in there. You can post, links to cool stuff that the guest may be providing from that particular episode. And instead of people having to go back and do onesie twosies, right? Like, okay, I subscribe to this, I go into the Apple Podcast application and I download it. Nothing is more frustrating to me than, all right, like the next cue, right? It bounces in and out of that particular show that I'm trying to listen to. I think it provides an interesting companion to the podcaster and to the listener, right? The listener is the biggest part of the show. Is like, you want more downloads, you want more subscribers, you want more people inquiring about that particular episode. That's kind of interesting, right? So, when you have people wanting to dig in deeper into the content, if you've got calls to action, if you've got things that you want your listeners to learn a little bit more, to go deeper into the subject matter, there's only so much time that the podcaster has to capture their attention. And we're trying to make these Build-A-Bot sessions a little bit shorter, right? and succinct and to the point. And the same thing is true for a podcast, right? People will scrub through, they'll listen to the podcast episode, and they want to get to the point. They want to extract as much info as they can from it. I think that is a big problem that can be solved. So, David, let's build one. What do you think?
Let's get into
What do you think about jumping into this, building this out? Then we'll come back and maybe talk about how to market this and answer any questions that people might have.
Awesome. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. Who's this guy, Drew?
Yeah, that's my buddy Tim.
Tim, right? I love this podcast. Listen to it all the time. And I just thought, there's a lot of episodes of this podcast. Like, I don't even, let me see how many there are here. Hang on one sec. Actually, let me switch screens. Actually, hang on one sec. I got the wrong screen up.
There
we go. Present, share. Okay, there we go. All right, now we got it. So yeah, the Tim Ferriss Show drew 770 episodes.
Content machine, that guy is.
770 episodes, tons of great topics, discussions, guest interviews, right? How would you ever filter through all of it? It's really hard.
Very difficult.
Really hard, right? Anybody else listen to Tim Ferriss podcast? Just put a 1 into the chat. I love it. Listen to it all the time. I mean, there's so many episodes here that you could just go on and on and on forever, right? So let's build a custom GPT. Olive says yes, that's great. Custom GPT for Tim's podcast, right? This is really more so for myself because I want to be able to quickly just go to my little custom GPT or bot and type in a topic or a subject or a guest and go find out, in what episode can I go listen to whatever, right? Pretty cool. So here's his page here for his podcast. He's got his links. He's got a lot of information, but what we really want is the RSS feed for this podcast. And sometimes the RSS feeds are very obvious. The podcast itself will generally, provide a link to their RSS feed. Sometimes they won't, so they can be hard to find. I found this tool here. It's called Castos, CASTOS. They have this little search engine that you can use to go and search for the RSS of a specific podcast. So if we type in, Tim Ferriss and hit search, boom, there it is, right? So here's the Tim Ferriss Show. He's got some other stuff too. Looks like he has a different version of his podcast, which is 5-minute podcast summaries. I think that's pretty cool too. I like that. But we're going to do the main podcast. So if you click here, it'll actually copy the RSS feed. Sometimes, let's paste this in here. Whoops. Ooh, that's a pretty crazy scene right there. There's a lot of content and data in that RSS feed, right? So what we do is we grab that RSS feed link, right? We'll come over into AskSpot. And what I'm going to do, Drew, is I'm going to go into my podcast demos folder here. We're going to create a new GPT. So we'll call it Tim Ferriss. Create. Click in.
For those of you who don't know, Tim Ferriss, he's the author of the 4-Hour Workweek.
Right. Yep. Great book. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add that RSS feed as a content source, right? So from sources, we go to RSS content and we're going to paste in that link and hit add source. Now I'm going to tell you there's a lot of content and data in that RSS feed. This might take a couple of minutes actually to bring all of that in. So we're going to click add source.
You mean it's not instantaneous, David? I mean,
it's not instantaneous.
We have to show a little bit of patience with.
While that's You got to be patient. I know. And it's crazy. Like people become very impatient these days, especially like in this digital marketing space, if things are not absolutely instant and automatic and totally automated. But uh, I think it's still pretty fast. While this is doing its stuff in the background here, we're going to go to our friend Claude, and we're going to use Claude to actually build out the system prompt for this podcast GPT. Okay. So within Claude here, I've built my own little project that's called the Podcast GPT Wizard. I'll give you access to the prompt for this. You can use it within a project like I have it here, or you can just use it. You probably could use it also in Chat GPT with OpenAI, but we like Claude for this. So you open it up and it's all kind of pre-programmed already. I've already given it like a system prompt of instructions of what it's going to do. And again, we'll give you this, okay? Um, so what you want to do is just type in the word start. And when you do that, it starts a new chat with this project, right? So it says, certainly, I'd be happy to help you create a custom GPT for a podcast. Let's begin by gathering some essential information about the podcast. What's the name of the podcast, right? So it's the Tim Ferriss Show. We're going to type that in. Tim Ferriss Show. Thank you for providing the podcast name. Let's continue gathering information about the Tim Ferriss Show. Who's the host? Tim Ferriss. Great. Thank you. Now, could you provide a brief description or tagline from the podcast? So you can probably go and get that here. Can't quite copy that, but let's see. Maybe I can get it from his page. There we go. About the Tim Ferriss Show. Here we go. Oh, actually, he had an RSS feed link right here too. But, so we'll take that, paste it in here, some info about the show. Thank you for providing such a comprehensive description of the Tim Ferriss Show. This gives us a great foundation to work with. Now let's move on to the main themes or topics covered in the podcast. Based on the description you've provided, it seems to cover a wide range of topics, but could you confirm or add to the following list of main themes? Business and entrepreneurship, personal development. I think that will cover a broad spectrum of topics there. Great. Thank you for confirming. Now let's identify the target audience for the Tim Ferriss Show. Based on the content and guesses, age range. I don't know. What would you say the age range would be, Drew? 35 to 55?
I say 25 to 55.
25. Okay. Age 25 to 55. I'd say there's a lot of business and entrepreneurship is kind of the occupation or interest, goals or aspirations. Any other defining characters? So we'll just go with that as an example. Do you have access to the RSS feed? We do. Let's grab that link. RSS feed. Just here. Copy that. We'll give them the link. Persona. So we kind of, I'm going to ask this GPT to see if this GPT can act in the persona of Tim Ferriss.
That's a good one. Hey, David, I don't mean to interrupt your flow, but is there a chance that you can zoom in just a little bit?
I can, Drew, but then it kind of messes up my
Project
screen.
everything. Yeah, no problem. So
I don't. I'm
for those that are asking to zoom in, just kind of pay attention to what David is saying, and we'll just kind of follow and guide you along. Long story short, we're going to be giving you this document, and then you can start to actually experience it. I think it's actually going to be better if you experience it and mess around in Claude with this custom prompt, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you can always go back and watch this replay in full screen or whatever.
Yep.
It's just kind of if I zoom in, like the Claude screen goes all wonky on me on my end here, then I can't do anything. So
All good. All good.
yeah. So understood, the GPT will adopt the persona of Tim Ferriss himself. This means it will emulate Tim's communication style, thought process, and approach to topics. Given this, the GPT will likely be curious and inquisitive, always looking to deconstruct and understand complex topics, speak in a friendly yet analytical tone, focus on practice. This is amazing. Draw from a wide range of disciplines and experiences, be engaging, of self-experimentation and personal optimization, show a genuine interest in the user's question and goals. And then basically it's just asking, is there anything else that I want to add to it? And I'm just going to say, nope, good to go. Cool. So now it's creating my assets for me. So this is kind of a detailed context document of how this GPT is going to kind of work, right? So what we'll do is we'll copy this. Whoops. Either copy this or add it to a document. If we go back over to AskSpot, and there we go, we've processed the RSS feed. Drew, 3,990,857 characters in that RSS feed.
In literally moments, right? I mean, and just to speak to that, right? That
Yeah.
takes some time for that to process, and just realize that there is a ton of content there, a ton. So
Yeah.
be patient with yourself. Be patient with technology. It does take a little bit of time to process, a podcast that has that many episodes.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can see how it parsed all of this.
Yep.
I mean, look at that, guys. And this is where AskSpot has a huge advantage over other maybe similar type platforms is we have zero restrictions in terms of how many characters you can train your GPT or bot on. Most platforms will just cut you off after 500,000. We just gave this bot almost 4 million characters of context and knowledge. It's pretty amazing. All right. Also, what I want to do here too is I'm going to turn on auto refresh or auto sync. Okay. So if I click here where it says off, it brings up this pop up, and now I can turn auto sync on, and you can choose how often you'd like to have this thing automatically resync with the RSS feed. So we'll just say, once a week, right? Hit save. And now auto sync is on. So every week, this thing will automatically refresh and go grab any new information from that RSS feed. So once you kind of set it up, you don't have to continually come back and, reprocess this. It will just do it automatically in the background.
Wait, what?
So, yeah. So now we'll go to settings. Okay. And AI config. I'm sorry. Actually, I've got to add that context document. So I'm going to go to text here. Forgot where I was. I just copied this context document. Take that. We're going to paste that right in here. And we're going to add this to the chatbot. So kind of just, this is like a detailed context document of what this GPT is going to do. Kind of all the information that we just kind of worked out in Claude. So we're going to add this. And now we're going to come back to ChatGPT. We're going to say continue. If I wanted to, I could work with this and have it make edits and adjust things if I wanted to before moving on to the next step. Okay. So now we're going to go continue or, next step. Now what's going to happen, it's going to actually write the instructional prompt, the AI prompt. Okay, so we can copy this, come back over, we'll go to settings, AI config, and we're going to add this prompt here where it says system prompt.
So, David, for
Paste.
the sake of people that are brand new and have no idea what a prompt is, what is? I mean, I know the terminology gave it away, but what is this that you just put into the
It's
platform?
basically like a set of instructions for this bot or GPT. It's telling it, what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to act. It has all the information here.
Got it.
Okay, kind of like the same thing as prompting a chat when you're using ChatGPT, right? This is the prompt for this GPT. We'll hit save. Probably switch this to GPT 4.0, which is probably the smartest currently in terms of, it's not the newest O1, which is a different type of model. It doesn't really come into play with GPTs like this. So 4.0 is the best, probably the best model that we can use. We could also use Claude too, but we can, and maybe we'll experiment with both of those and see what gives us a better output in the end. But that's, basically it in the big scheme of things. Now, obviously, we're going to play around with this a little bit. We're going to test it out. We're going to maybe fine tune and go and adjust that prompt. But the bulk of it's kind of done, right? So if we go and grab the direct to chatbot link and we load that up, let's can interact with this a little bit. Now I haven't, done any styling. I haven't added the initial message or changed the images. We can do all that after. We're just really getting at actually how to build it out, right? So let me just put the word start in and see what this thing does. It says, hey there, it's great to have you here. It looks like you're interested in getting started with something. Could you tell? So there we go. Let's go back and adjust this prompt, right? Let's go back. So let's adjust this. When a human prompts you with the word start, you, Tim, will welcome them to the GPT and ask if there are any specific topics or guests they are interested in learning. Whoops. More about. So basically, what I want to happen is when somebody opens this for the first time, I want the GPT to welcome them and ask if there's any specific topics or any specific guests they're looking to learn more about. Can you give me that in the complete prompt? Would help if I could type. There we go. I just wanted to write that whole prompt for me so I don't have to piece it in anywhere. All right, so let's try this now. Come back. Get rid of this. So when a human prompts you, see what it added here. When a human prompts you with the word start, welcome them to the GPT and ask if there are any specific topics, guests they are interested in learning more about. Guest users, greet users with enthusiasm, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's just go back. Let's refresh this. There we go, right? Welcome to the Tim Ferriss Insight GPT. Welcome. I'm excited to dive into some fascinating topics with you. Are there any specific subjects or guests from the Ferriss Show that you are particularly interested in learning more about? Whether it's business strategies, persona, personal development, health, whatever, feel free to share your interests, goals. Drew, give me a topic.
I don't know.
Fasting?
Yeah, fasting, intermittent fasting. Are there any episodes on intermittent fasting? Boom.
Like, come on, right?
What's the alternative to this, David? You would have to go to Apple and then endlessly
Yeah,
scroll.
let's see here. Let's see. Oh man. Okay. Where can I find I know Tim's really into, diet and fasting and health, but where do I find that in this, right? Do you see where we're getting at here? Insanity. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, the problem that you just solved is discoverability, which is incredible.
Mhm. Another cool thing you can do too is, this feature doesn't always work well for all bots or GPTs, but for something like this, it does kind of work well because what you can do with OpenAI is you can enable the AI to suggest questions or topics based upon its given knowledge, right? So based upon the knowledge in that RSS feed, it's going to come up with maybe some topics or questions. So let's go and load this again. So there we go. So, like, what are some of the ways that listeners can support healthcare workers? Um, can you provide more information on initiatives message such as Flexboard? You got to kind of test this stuff out, but you can also with this feature too, you can actually suggest specific keywords that the AI would make suggestions about too. And then if you want to, you can force it to keep recommending your recommendations here in terms of keywords that the AI will recommend. So I would test that out. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It's really dependent on the AI and what it sees and what it pulls in. It's really hard for us to control, but that option is there too. And based upon the information and the context and given knowledge, it can make suggestions or create, possible questions that people might be interested in, Drew.
Amazing. Yeah, we got a couple questions that have come in from this. I
Yeah,
think
sure.
pretty much everybody has the gist of what we're trying to do and accomplish with a companion GPT like this. So here's a surface question from Dara, which I appreciate this. Would they put the bot on the podcast website? Like, what would your recommendations be for something like this?
Definitely could go on a podcast website, could go on like Tim's specific page for his podcast, which I think I closed, but on his website, it could one thing it could be is a premium feature. So podcasters are always looking to generate revenue, whether it's via sponsorships or ads on their podcasts or selling. A lot of podcasts will sell access to a premium podcast feed. Maybe that podcast feed has no ads or it has um, premium content that the regular podcast does not have. Something like this, a GPT that makes like thousands of podcast episodes searchable could be a premium feature behind like a paywall or on a special page that somebody has access to if they're paying for a premium version of the podcast. True.
Yeah. Um, the opportunity to put this inside of like an email blast would be remarkable, right? You call it the
Yeah.
4-hour bot, and in the email signature, I get that every single week from Tim is just another discovery tool. So David says, I just went to Tim's podcast website and used the search for fasting, and I gave me a whole lot of options to choose from.
That's great.
Awesome, David.
Tim's on top of it. Tim is, tech forward. He understands this stuff. But David, 99% of podcasters do not. That's great that Tim has that and makes his podcast searchable via tech on his website. But do the majority of podcasters out there have access to something like we just created?
Probably don't. They probably don't. And it's just, every opportunity that you have to extend discovery is going to be valuable to podcasters. Would this be valuable to Tim? Absolutely would be. Would he be interested in you selling it to him? I'm not sure. Probably not. But there's going to be a bunch of podcasters who would be interested. David, I got to step away for just a second. Can you continue with some of these questions here?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So Robin's asking, are we charged by Claude when we add all of the new content? Well, Claude does also have a, free tier. If you take the prompt that we'll give you with this, you could probably use that in Claude for free. It kind of works in the same way that Chat GPT Premium does. You get more usage and more access to the tool if you're paying them, and you get access to some different features and stuff. But you could take the prompt that we're going to give you and probably use that within ChatGPT also, and just the free version of Claude. So hopefully that makes sense. Dara's asking, what would you charge for a bot like this one? Dara, it really depends. It's not very difficult to create. It depends on, for someone like Tim Ferriss, if we were to build something like this for him and he were to promote it and actively, lead people to it to interact with, it obviously would be more expensive for someone like Tim, who has a giant audience and following, compared to the average podcasters, maybe not getting that many downloads, that many listens, but still does want to make, their podcast, searchable. See here. Jan's asking, so one AskSpot bot on the main page of the podcast that upsells the premium ad-free podcast, including an AI search. Yeah, Jan, I mean, you don't necessarily need a bot to sell the premium podcast, but what I'm saying is this bot could be part of a premium offering, meaning the ability to make a podcast searchable, or an easier way to go through and filter through all of the different content. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Can a podcast be both audio and video, or is it just audio? Bob, many people have both versions of a podcast, meaning they might have their audio version of their podcast, and they also, they videotape themselves creating their podcast, and they'll take those videos and upload them to a place like YouTube, or Spotify now has video, video versions of podcasts too. Donna, can you do this with the free version of Claude? Yeah, you should be able, like Robin was asking, you should be able to do this with the free version of Claude. Yep, absolutely. Jan says, this is crazy. Just realized how many podcasts there are out there. There's millions out there. Now, a lot of them are not like serious podcasts of people who are hobbyists. There are people who are just using podcasts as a lead generation tool to like start and have conversations with people. But yeah, there are millions and millions of podcasts out there. And, if you want to make the content from a podcast more usable, meaning allowing people to filter through it and search through it and find topics that they're looking for, and find the information that they want to engage with, a tool like this is really, really usable, right? Another way too that you could, use this on a website is via our nav bar, right? So if you've been using AskSpot, you should know already that if we go to settings and go to customization, we have some different variations of the actual widget that you can put on a website, right? So we have let me just make this a little bigger. There we go. We have the actual, chat widget here that you can install on a website, obviously, that you all probably know about. But we also have something called an AI nav bar, which is trying to kind of emulate like what a search bar might look like. Okay. And this is kind of what it looks like. So you can install this in a couple different ways. Number one is you can install it just like the chat widget, meaning it'll load the left hand or bottom right hand side of the website and kind of be sticky and stay at the bottom. Um, move around too. So if you wanted to go left or center, you can also go on the top of a page. So it becomes kind of like an AI powered search engine in a sense for a website. Okay. Or for a certain topic or certain skill set or knowledge base. So that's one way. And the other way that you can also install this is you can embed this in line on any website anywhere on like a web page, and it will like maybe under a video or under an audio player. Maybe if there's an audio player for a podcast on a podcaster's website, you could add something like this nav bar on that page under an audio player. So if you want to embed this in line, you go to the code here. This is where all your different ways that you can share your chatbot, and you would choose the navbot embed code. Okay. And if you take this code, just like, when you put a YouTube video or some other sort of embed in line on a web page, this works the exact same way. So if you add this like under a video, that nav bar would just live underneath that video and people could engage with the content from that video if you've trained the bot on it. Really, interesting and cool way to also utilize the tools here from within AskSpot. So we come back and see if we have any other questions here. Let's see. Can you have more than one podcast in a bot? I guess you could. It might get a little confusing, but I guess you could do that. Yeah. Let's see here. I have to send an embed code to a nonprofit that has Wix. What code do I send to them so it's a bot? I think what you're asking, what code do I send to them? So it's the little chat widget that sits in the bottom right-hand corner of the website. It is this code here, Dara. You want to choose chatbot code and copy this. And if you're ever confused, just know too, if you click here where the question mark is, there's a great little video here where Kim explains all these different options for you for sharing. Okay. And you can find these little question marks all throughout the application if you need help. There's little videos almost everywhere. You just got to look for that little question mark and it will lead you through that area of the app. Cool. Drew, am I missing anything? I think I got what questions were there.
Somebody asked a little bit earlier, like, what would you charge for a bot? I'm not sure if you answered that yet or not.
I kind of said, it depends, it really depends on how involved it is, how big that podcaster's audience is. Obviously, more people using the bot means more API usage, right? So you got to kind of think about that a little bit. So it depends.
The answer to that question is always
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
So David says, when you say put it under the video, I understand how for one video, but could it be under all the video podcasts on their site? Yes, it could be, Dave. It really depends on your use case. So I am assuming it would have to be uploaded every time a new video is released.
Yeah, well, check this
Yeah.
out. Let's consider a YouTuber, right? What if you wanted to transcribe? What if you transcribe the video before they uploaded it to YouTube? Give that transcription of the video to AskSpot, and then put the link to the chatbot inside the description on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, people might have questions about that particular video, particularly if it's like a TED video or an instructional type of video, something like that. Like, can you see how this just opened up a massive, massive prospecting opportunity for everybody that's on this call or anybody that's a YouTuber, right? I know it's a one extra step, but if you transcribe your video, here's a little tip and trick. You take that video and upload it to Loom. I think YouTube actually does this too, but you get the idea, right? You transcribe your video and then you have a discussion, a discussion bot, question bot about whatever that video is all about. Does it take a little bit extra time? Yeah, but it adds another layer of coolness to this situation. Oh, and by the way, do you think Tim or any of these creators would benefit from the data that's being collected on the interactions of that bot? David, what question did you ask that bot? You asked it about intermittent fasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Tim or maybe a virtual assistant or somebody that was paying attention to the bot internally and saw all the interactions and the questions, do you think he might find some topics
Yeah.
that he should
Absolutely.
go back and do another episode on, or a recap, or something that he didn't cover that might be asked about that bot? Hey,
Yeah.
are there any episodes about the next 4 hours? How can I make it? What's your next book or something like that?
That's it, man. And you're right. And here's an example of like how you can use that in conjunction with a video. This is an example of a thing we did for our local newsletter accelerator program, where this video is an hour and 36-minute, town hall style thing that we did, where we talked about local newsletters and answered questions. And then what we did is we took the transcript from that video and trained a bot and AskSpot on that transcript, right? And now, as you're watching the video, if you have questions, you can interact or ask questions about what was going on in this video. Maybe you need some clarification. Maybe you want to get some more, deeper understanding. You have some frequently asked questions. So like, what is a local newsletter? And there we go. This is all based upon the transcript from this video. Really interesting way to use the widget like this, right? You can embed, these all over websites on different pages with different that are trained on different content and different information. Does that make sense to everybody on how cool that is? I love this feature in AskSpot. I don't think it's really used a lot, but we use it all the time.
Yep. Listen, if you're not a AskSpot user, we'd love to invite you to come and check this out. What you want to do is head over to AskSpot.ai for access to this. If you want to learn more about this and you want to join our community, we do have a school community, and it allows you to come in and interact with some of the other folks, learn about these build a bot sessions that we have on a week-to-week basis. We're coming up with new topics all the time. Sometimes we rehash some things because of demand and because of popularity. And quite frankly, the opportunity is absolutely massive. I mean, do you realize how many podcasts there are out there? All right, not everyone's going to want it. Not everybody has the time or the energy, but there's millions of podcasts out there.
And then above and beyond that, like what else commonly do people connect to RSS feeds? Blogs, right? What else, Drew? News content.
News content. Dave, we just did a whole session on RSS and finding and discovering RSS feeds from all kinds of stuff, school calendars. You've got events, you've got sports for local schools, you've got municipalities on the local level about meetings that are coming up. And, it doesn't always have to be a huge podcast episode. It could be pretty much anything, right? That has, has an RSS feed attached to it. So there you go, guys. I mean, clearly there's lots of information here. David, you want to tell them a little bit more about the community as well?
Yeah, I'm going to grab the link for it right now, actually. um, so yeah, if you haven't done so already, make sure you join our new community. It's over on the school platform. We're going to be closing down and archiving the Ask Spot community over on Facebook. We're not going to delete it. The content will stay there, but we're going to be archiving it. We're not going to be adding any new information or posts there. It's all happening here in our school community. And, I know there's a bunch of you who have not joined there yet. So if you've not joined, just click on the link that I just put into the chat and join. We've been sending emails about it. We've been posting about it. If you're paying attention at all, we've been emailing our subscribers about it. If you've been paying attention at all, there's no way that you could not have seen this yet. We've been at it for a few weeks now, constantly trying to let you know, but it takes about 2 minutes to sign up. There's no cost involved. It's not a paid community. We're just simply moving to a place where we can keep things more organized. We can organize the content in a better way and remove the distractions that are often, that come along with Facebook and social media.
Yep. Donna said, will the reference doc for this session be placed along with the replay in the school community?
Yes. Yep. If you go to the classroom area here, where did I put that? If you go to the classroom area, there is a module here for Build-A-Bot session replays. And yep, we'll be adding it. It'll be added right underneath the last one. And we will add a document download here. We just need a little bit to do that. It doesn't happen instantly, but we'll get it there sometime today.
Yep. Town hall, I suppose. I'm not sure what Dave was asking about the town hall. Our Build-A-Bot sessions, I suppose that you're talking about that. This is what you're in right now, the Build-A-Bot sessions. As we schedule those out, they'll also go into that calendar inside that school group. Now, remember, there's two different groups that we have right now. One is the asset-based agency group, and one is the Build-A-Bot session. We're trying to keep those disciplines separated a little bit because it gets a little bit there's a lot of cross reference and people get confused and stuff like that. So under request and decision, we made to create this on school. What we found, and just to give you some clarity about that, there's a lot of distractions on Facebook, right? It's political season. People just it's squirrel season, right? And they're just like looking all over the place. And despite, the functionality of groups and things of that nature on Facebook, we found that this school is a delightful platform to check in a few times throughout the day and remain productive. Ultimately, if you're selling custom AI chatbots and AI services, you should be doing 99% of your time should be doing that, right? If you're running a newsletter, if you're running other types of software, if you've got an agency, a local marketing agency, 99% of your time should be spent marketing and should be spent selling, right? That kind of stuff. And then 1% consuming the content. And we want you to come in to school, get what you need, engage with it, and then take that with you and be able to apply that, later this week. So here, if you guys wouldn't mind, before we wrap things up today, and in part 5, I like actually how to market this. Right? This is a perfect segue into, part 5. Who here is going to go out there and build out a custom AI podcast companion chatbot? Who's going to do it?
Yeah. And listen, it may not be for everybody. It may not be a market that you're looking to go out and attack. But also what we're doing here too is trying to open up your mind to some of the possibilities of things you can do with this, right? Above and beyond. Maybe you don't want to sell these to podcasters, and we get that. May not be for everybody, but think about what we just did, and maybe you can apply the principles or the strategies of what we just did for other types of content creators or other types of businesses.
Yeah. Anybody here an Instagram user? What's the favorite saying of most people on TikTok and Instagram and inside Reels when they want people to go check out more of their stuff? Check out the link in my bio, right? Most people are consuming content on their mobile devices. Could you create a link to your chatbot to take them down a deeper path into your content and where to find all of your other cool stuff? Yeah. So there you go. You have the opportunity to do some interesting things. Reluctant IG user. Yeah. But you get the idea. Anywhere that you can put a link is a huge opportunity for you to share your cool stuff, your chatbots, and all the other cool stuff that you're creating. Just be imaginative. The other day, was it Tuesday? Yeah, I held a meetup event, and I had this huge banner and a retractable banner, and on the banner was a QR code. It was a registration button. We covered this in our last Build a Bot session, right? So being able to invite people to your podcast, like the very last question in that chatbot sequence was, "Hey, um, I know that you're here to meet other people," and basically the bot itself was collecting data about who we can introduce them to at this meetup. If you ever go to networking events, you're probably going there for a reason. You want to meet people, right? So be very specific with who you want to meet. You're going there to meet clients. You're going to, meet somebody that can help you with a certain task or something along those lines. During that last question, you could always pivot and say, you know what? It's interesting. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your business. Would you be interested in being featured in our local newsletter and or our podcast? If you went to an event, how cool would it be if you were able to extract 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 people to be a guest on your podcast for the next 50 weeks? If you're doing a one per week, your entire year is filled up from going to one event, right? Did you not also just market your chatbot from something like that, right? Your business card. I've got my business card, and on my business card on the back of it is a QR code. It's an NFC card as well. As I'm interacting with people, I'm collecting their business cards to reach out to them. But on the chance that they do scan my business card, I'm inviting them to check out my custom AI meetup chatbot, right? And in that chatbot, I'm asking them very specific questions to sort, to qualify, to disqualify certain people, and also generate a list of people that I can reach out to. If they scan that QR code, if they hold the NFC card up and they go through that chatbot process, they are probably very interested in using that at some point. So those are just some very basic things. Like, my favorite one to do is going to other people's events and going through and collecting as many business cards as I possibly can, and then reaching out to them. If I send them a podcast, send them an email in the link in my signature, check out my podcast or check out my my custom AI chatbot or check out AskSpot. They click on that link, boom, it opens it up, and now they can start to engage with the chatbot. Like that's, you're taking your email to a completely different level. So get creative.
I mean, you can also, think about this as not a bot, but what you're building is a no code AI tool, right? No code. It's almost like a little piece of software, a little tool that you've built within AskSpot with no coding at all, not having to think about any of that stuff that happens in the background, which is very complex. And just by copying, pasting, and writing some prompts and setting everything up, you have a deliverable, which is an AI-powered tool that a podcaster could use, a local business could use. These things can create and write content, all sorts of stuff, right? So what we're trying to do is expand thinking this technology.
Yeah. Jen asked, are meetups usually on Zoom or still live these days? Yeah, they could be both, but even with a online Zoom call, you can change out your profile image to be a QR code, right? It's kind of an interesting way to go about doing that, or just dropping links into, into this session here. If people wanted to experience that, you can just drop the link to your custom AI chatbot directly into the comments, and people can interact with the chatbot right there on their iPhones, their Android devices, or even on their desktop, which is kind of cool. The meetups that I was talking about are actually the in-person live events, right? When you're collecting business cards, you're giving out business cards. We talked about a retractable banner. So if you're hosting the event, when people come in, they want to get to it, right? The way to sign in before was either through a kiosk or through, the old paper and pen method and that sort of thing. But most people get it. They understand that if they scan this QR code, they're going to experience or get some information about it. Like imagine having a guest speaker, or you will have some giveaways or something like that, like, door prizes. Maybe you've got tickets that you want to give away, or coupons, or perhaps even gift cards or gift certificates or something like that to the restaurant or the location that you're there. Or you just want to buy some gift cards to, Amazon or something locally that you want to give away as door prizes, or have them sponsored by, the host or somebody else that's a business there that wants to get more, face time in front of those types of guests. Fun way. It's a fun way to go about doing that and get out in front of people. So, guys, with that said, I think we're going to wrap things up here for today, unless you've got any last minute questions. Looks like David jumped off for a moment. So David says, I'm not really sure what you mean, but yes, AI SaaS tool is kind of what we're going at with AskSpot here. If you guys want to check this out, we invite you to go to AskSpot.ai /private. If you want to get a trial to the platform, mess around with it. I've got all kinds of cool templates. Jan said, I was thinking in terms of selling AskSpot to Zoom based meetup. Yeah, you could do it. You could totally do it. That it's a great tool for a lot of people to use as giveaways. I mean, creating courses on, that you deploy by way of the bot itself. Very interesting. So module 1, there's a button there. Boom, they click and they see a video. You can transcribe that, use module 1 as, as a resource, and train the bot itself on the subject matter of module 1, that they could ask questions, perhaps even do a quiz if you wanted to. Very interesting thing. So you can give away lead magnets to those that are hosting Zooms, or, hey, click this link, save this link on your phone for a recap of this. If you happen to have questions about this Zoom session or this webinar, you could totally do that. It's a great question. Great statement. All right, my friends. Well, that's it. We're going to conclude today's session for Build a Bot workshop. Thank you so much. If you want access to the channel again, or to the community again, you want to head over to this link here. I'll drop it one more time inside of chat. Let me just copy this. If you guys want access, we invite you to come in to the group here. I'll just drop it in one more time. There you go. That is the link to join us inside our new community over on School. On behalf of my business partner, David, and I, and so many people that came out to hang out with us today, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.